So hi, welcome to the Members Showcase. I'm really thrilled for this particular session. I'm really excited about all of them, but this one's really cool. We're going to do something new and do something different, and we're going to hope that technology supports us as we do this. So thank you for your patience and forgiveness if this doesn't work out the way we want to do it, but I think it will. I have faith. So welcome. This is the second session as part of the 2021 Spring Summit. And this is a members showcase. Together Bay Area members have really gone beyond. I mean, it's wide and deep of what Together Bay Area members have done over the past year and a half. Well, and long before that too, to rise to the challenges that we're facing. I mean, you've heard them all before. You know these things in terms of how what this world has been like and what equities and inequities have been revealed. How badly we need to get outside and connect with one another and with the natural world. So I'm not going to go through all of the things that you all know so well. I know you know that things have been hard. And what I want to show you in the next hour are some of the ways that Together Bay Area members have risen to the challenge, and not just risen to the challenge, but seized some opportunities that are really exciting and very cool. So, as always, want to just ground ourselves first before we get too far down into the agenda, to acknowledge that we're all on Indigenous land, that we are working as part of Together Bay Area individually and collectively to honor the Indigenous people that are here today, to look and center and lift up their leadership in terms of how to take care of these lands. And we're doing that in lots of different ways. And so I just want to start by kind of grounding us in that as we talk about land, people, and communities. So here's how this is going to work. We have 8 presentations. They're going to be 5 minutes each, and there's going to be my tech team, my colleagues are going to keep us to 5 minutes each. 5 minutes, as you know, goes by fast. So what we're trying to do here is provide a lot of information for you to get a little taste. And the hope is that then you follow up with these folks afterwards, that you chat them during the session or go meet in one of the sessions on your left afterwards where you can find out more information. This is not meant to be comprehensive. This is meant to give you a taste of some of the really cool things that are happening out there. And there's lots of different kinds too. So I'm really excited for this. So 5 minutes each. They are limited to 3 slides. So this is meant to go quick. And are we ready? Woo! All right, we are. The first up is Dr. Corbin from the Oakland Parks and Rec Foundation. I'm sorry, let me say that in the full proper name. The Oakland Parks and Recreation Foundation. Dr. Corbin is a researcher and activist, is all kinds of things that I'm just going to keep moving fast to introduce you. Welcome, Dr. Corbin. We look forward to hearing from you. Ready? Go.
Thank you. Greetings. I am Dr. C.N.E. Corbin with the Oakland Parks and Recreation Foundation. I'm here to speak with you about our 2020 Parks and Equity Report, The Promise of Oakland Parks. For this survey, we took an environmental justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion approach. For example, our past surveys focused on an assessment of physical park conditions. This time, we talked directly with Oaklanders about their experiences and perspectives the first time in over a generation. And we amplified new voices by not limiting our survey to park users alone. We reached out to residents throughout Oakland, both online and in person, as well as in English, Spanish, and Cantonese. And we engaged new partners, including the Department of Race and Equity and many community organizations. And here's something special about this survey. Data was collected the last quarter of 2019, the eve of the pandemic. That means this report represents one of the last looks at how Oaklanders have typically experienced parks, and in all likelihood, the hopes and concerns expressed are now even stronger, making this report an important guide to prepare for a post-COVID future. Our goal was to produce a citywide survey whose findings could be acted on with confidence. Our survey consisted of 1,300 respondents, and we achieved a reasonable approximation of Oakland, both by race and residential location. We conducted analyses by race, ethnicity categories, as well as by gender, age, income, area, so that all voices could be uniquely heard. For us, it was important to break the binary of the white versus people of color paradigm. In doing so, we explicitly named our race ethnicity categories Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian, and Middle Eastern, and white. And when appropriate, we used the acronym BLAM, when Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian, and Middle Eastern groups were in alignment in park experience and perspectives. While I'm unable to get into the weeds of our survey at this time, I would like to offer some quick findings. One of our most exciting findings was that parks can generate incredible unity in Oakland. 95% of participants with no significant difference by race, gender, age, income, or neighborhood agreed that activated parks make Oakland healthier, more just, and better for culture, economy, youth, and the environment. And what do we mean by an activated park? A park that is well-maintained, safe, equitably accessible, fully utilized, and beloved by the community. People were so passionate about parks that we had over 900 participants write in comments. 94% supported more investment in parks, fields, pools, and recreation centers. 92% would support candidates who strongly support parks, and 88% agreed recreation centers should provide relief and assistance during heat waves, smoke days, floods, fires, and earthquakes, and this speaks to a climate justice solution. Our findings also revealed that 95% of participants endured at least one barrier, and some groups were disproportionately burdened by barriers. Barriers to parks means barriers to benefits, and so these findings represent both a missed opportunity for Oakland and a driver of inequity in Oakland. 53% registered bathroom barriers, with issues scoring as very important, with the largest evaluation coming from the lowest income participants, followed by Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian, and Middle Eastern participants. 55% experienced barriers related to maintenance, with no difference by race or gender. 53% of participants reporting poor security in neighborhood parks, with only 20% reporting security as not a concern. 41% of respondents reported that encampments had impacted their access to and use of parks, and encampments was the #1 topic participants wrote in about, with hundreds of remarks. And children were disproportionately impacted by these barriers, especially bathrooms and unsafe routes to parks. This burden held across race, age, income, and neighborhood. From these findings, we believe we have also had added impact. For example, contributing to the passage of Measure Q, the 2020 Parks and Recreation Preservation, Litter Reduction, and Homeless Support Act, and the 2030 Climate Action Plan. I will leave it here for now. I'll look forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Corbin. That was under time. You get bonus points. Thank you. And thank you so much for the really thoughtful work that you and your colleagues at Oakland Parks and Recreation Foundation are doing. Lots of good chat there about activated parks and non-binary. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next up, we have Scott Reeves from Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District to talk about 0.6 miles of the Bay Trail. Scott.
Hey, thank you. Let me get myself situated here and share my screen. I'm going to endeavor to do a PowerPoint here, and I'll do my best to follow in Dr. Corbin's footsteps and that interesting presentation. So, all right, so my name is Scott Reeves. I'm with the Engineering and Construction Department at the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District, and I'm going to talk to you today about the Ravenswood Bay Trail project. So this was a small but mighty project that closed a critical 0.6 mile gap in the San Francisco Bay Trail system between our Ravenswood Preserve and University Avenue to connect 80 contiguous miles of shoreline trail. As part of a larger trail improvement project, we built a new trailhead and a boardwalk to provide access to tidal marshes previously inaccessible to the public. We also improved the marsh for wildlife who depend on it, including the endangered ridgeways rail and salt marsh harvest mouse. So today I'm going to take a really brief look at this project And I'm going to try and summarize it with 3 interesting stories, one about timing, one about teamwork, and one about technique. And so first, just kind of this interesting juxtaposition of timing. So gaps exist in the Bay Trail system. About 30% of the system, there's still gaps remaining. And they exist for a reason. These sites are incredibly complex. And we basically had to thread the needle on this project because we had overlapping environmental constraints, cultural resources, property ownership issues, and land use issues. We spent 10 years just determining if the project was going to be feasible and what encroachments and agreements would be needed. And then as we worked through our permits, it became painstakingly clear that time would not be on our side. We were in prime breeding habitat for the Ridgeways rail, and so 60% of our project would need to be completed or constructed between September to January in only 5 months. So to think of our 15-year timeline, we spent 97% of that time planning and only 3% of it building. So I love this image of our overlook because it's truly a special place to birdwatch. And in fact, we actually had a resident Ridgeway rail occasionally come inspect our work in the early morning hours during construction. And they're usually very reclusive, but this rail seemed unfazed by our construction activity. I think it likes to just wield its power of forcing our contractor to have to stand down during construction. But thankfully, it moved on its way and was never too costly. Anyways, this overlook really represents the accomplishments of our project and the fact that it really took a village of support to complete. As mentioned, we had a lot of challenges with property rights, environmental constrictions, and jurisdictional complexities. We really relied on our partnerships with our sister agencies, including the San Francisco Public Utility Commission, PG&E, Samtrans, cities of East Palo Alto, and Menlo Park. 30% of the funding came from our Mid-Penn 2014 Measure AAA bond, but 70% of it came from our funding partners, including the Association of Bay Area Governments, Coastal Conservancy, counties of San Mateo, Santa Clara, California Natural Resources Agency, Facebook, and Caltrans. And amid all that support, it's interesting to acknowledge that the initial $40,000 seed funding that we received proved to be the catalyst for change because it validated the project, and we were able to then leverage those funds to find the remaining support for the budget. Okay, so I know this slide is kind of overwhelming, but this is our project in a nutshell. But the 0.6 mile gap is what's highlighted in red. And I want to just share a couple interesting stories about our construction phase. A common theme to our construction out here was to have the lightest touch on the land. And at this project, we really came back to the analogy of threading that needle. And during construction, it was no different. So for example, our boardwalk, our work zone for our boardwalk was only 10 feet wide, the exact width of the future boardwalk. So all the activity had to stay within that 10 feet. There was no space to spread out, lay down materials or anything like that. And our contractor got very creative in building a jig to have 2 pieces of equipment moving laterally as they built the substructure up and down this runway of this boardwalk. They also prefabricated material off-site so as to facilitate the linear activities and as well not let any sawdust or debris escape into the marsh. And we really like that because it's part of our light touch on the land. And then another interesting point is how we built our refuge islands, which are these green dots that are way out in the marsh. And those pieces of construction were done by hand, and they built a long trail of plywood out to each one of those so as to not create a depression for predators. And I can see Annie's back, so I think my time is up. Anyways, thank you all. I'm happy to take this offline and tell you all about our project.
It's that awkward moment where it's like, hi, I'm back. Thank you, Scott, for sharing. There's so much here, clearly. I mean, and one of the things I think you mentioned is that this is, a long-term project. So I really hope that if you want to learn more, that you'll contact Scott. He'll be over in the chat, and you can follow up with him afterwards as well. So thank you very much, Scott. It also is a good reminder of how much work goes into very small amounts of trail. And I wish sometimes that we could communicate this more clearly to more park users of just how much work goes into every inch of the spaces that they love so much. All right, we're going to travel up to the, not the North Bay, but we're going to head north up to Richmond. And I'm really excited to welcome Eric Aholm here. He's the executive director of Yes, Nature to Neighborhoods, to tell us about one of the ways that his organization has stepped up during the COVID pandemic. And to Eric. He's coming, I know he is. There we go.
You there?
There you are.
All right, good. Thanks, Annie.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for the kind introduction. Thanks everybody for hosting this great space and allowing me the opportunity to tell you a little bit about our work in Richmond. So I, like Scott, have a little slide I'd like to present. There we go. So I want to tell you a little bit about our Resilience Fund, which came out of a response to the pandemic. Yes is a place-based organization doing positive youth development work in Richmond. We've been around for about 22 years. And our primary focus is on leadership development and doing so through outdoor access and time in nature. And last year, when the pandemic hit in March, we recognized pretty quickly that we were not going to be able to do our annual summer camp program that serves about 300 youth every year. And so our staff, our program team, started picking up the phones and reaching out to our families, many of whom we've had, long-term relationships with over 10 years, to see how they were doing. And as you might imagine, the pandemic hit some of our community members pretty quickly and harder than some, with things like job loss and concerns around how they were going to pay rent and a number of other issues. And so that really got us thinking about how we could support our community. And as I mentioned, it started off with a number of care calls to families and then conversations with our partners around the community. And we learned that several organizations, big and small and collaboratively, were creating relief funds in response to the pandemic. And so we set out to do the same, and were able to bring together initial contributions through individual donors, and then subsequently we received some donations from local community foundations and family foundations that were responding to the crisis. As far as the overview itself goes, we started out with a $25,000 goal. We spent a lot of time in the planning phase, as one should, in terms of talking about whether or not this was going to be IRS compliant, procedurally, how would it look. We created an intake form and set up an approval committee on staff. And then we talked about the distribution of those funds and what they could cover. And so it sort of started out with those care calls. And if families expressed any sort of need around living expenses or rent, utilities, education, healthcare, we didn't scrutinize. We just would let them know that they were eligible for a fund that we had, and if they would like to be considered. And so we ended up surpassing our goal significantly by almost 4 times what we set out to achieve. And what that allowed us to do is break up our Resilience Fund into a couple of different phases. One last summer that started in late May, early June. And then we did another one as the holidays approached in December of last year, as case counts and other things were really going back up again. And in total, we've been able to distribute $500 cash grants to 170 families in our programs. Some families have received multiple assistance grants. And our staff have really been, the key individuals on the front lines of supporting our families. Our families, the average size is 4.3, and average income is under $25,000 a year. So we know that the pandemic has had a significant impact and hardship on them. And it's also given rise to conversations about how we can keep this fund going in perpetuity. So Yes is committed, as are other community organizations, to maintaining their funds beyond the end of the pandemic. And the other thing that it's allowed us to be able to think about is how to address ongoing health issues and need for resources in our community. And we will be hiring a clinical case manager in the summer of 2021 to help with those things. And I think as a direct service organization serving the community on the front lines, it's imperative that we have this type of response, not only right now, but in the future as well. So we're really excited about how the Resilience Fund has sort of opened us up to our thinking about how we can support our community. And I see my 5 minutes coming up, so I'm going to end it right there, and would be happy to answer questions in the follow-up. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I know you made a big difference in some people's lives and in your community, so thank you so much for sharing that. And I bet there's a lot of questions that folks have about different ways that they can also can learn from you. I mean, there's a lot of mechanics in there in addition to the intentions and values. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks, Annie.
Great. Next, I like to pretend that we're in a helicopter and we're going to be traveling around the region. So we're going to, in our regional helicopter, move from the North Bay, from Richmond, back down to the South Bay, and really excited to welcome Mark Landgraf from the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority to join us to talk about Coyote Valley. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Annie. Good to be here with you. Let me also share my screen just a second as I do this. All right. Well, thank you, Annie, and good afternoon, everybody. We and our partner will soon be planning our newest and boldest open reserve.
Sorry to interrupt, Mark, real quick, but your screen share doesn't seem to be working. Are my tech crew agreeing with that, or is that just me? And Mark, you seem to disappear as well. Yeah, thank you, Nicole.
Is it working now?
Nope. So when you see if you can select a different window when you are given the option of screen sharing.
Okay.
Gary, can you help us out? And just Mark, just so you know, that Stu's helping us out by pointing out that what we're seeing is dark, and so it's really Coyote Valley at night.
At night, yeah, I saw that. Is that better?
No, I wonder if there's there we go. Winner, winner. All right, I'm gonna duck out. Please, yep, go.
All righty, thank you. So I hope I didn't mess up 2 of my 5 minutes there. Thank you everybody for your patience, and I want to start out by saying we will soon be planning our newest open space reserve here in Coyote Valley. Picture previously considered for campuses by the likes of Apple and Cisco, is now increasingly in the public trust as a wildlife corridor, now floodplain upstream of San Jose, agricultural vestige of the Valley Park Delight, and for non-intrusive recreational access. It's a landscape. I also want to consider multicultural. All of our 1 million residents, and importantly, our tribal partners, to feel a sense of belonging and pride in helping to set a vision for Coyote Valley. It's a tall order, so tall, in fact, we know we can't do it alone, and not even with a herd of consultants. To enlist a herd of community-based citizens. We've considered, 1, how hard it is to pinpoint who you're not reaching in your communications. 2, that there's probably a lot getting in the way of residents knowing who we are, like language, culture, daily needs, and of course, some may just not be interested. And 3, that we want to do it right. We want to do right by everyone, be uber inclusive, and give many people the chance to weigh in on setting that Coyote Valley vision. So we build a process that centers respect for folks before we ever ask them the first question. We build relationship, trust, and convey clearly our genuine desire to understand what needs our communities have that we can help with, and what experiences people want to have that nature can bring them, by going beyond the traditional planning-focused community engagement. We are set to turn this landscape around. Here we go. Now we're looking west of the valley. In the past 18 months, we've been working with the Peninsula Open Space Trust and City of San Jose to paint this beautiful landscape green. By that, I mean protected forever for public benefit. Look at the progress that's been made and with more to come. And there is urban Silicon Valley at the doorstep of Coyote Valley on the right side of your screen, like right there. It's just such an opportunity and such a chance to do. Well, to balance wildlife connectivity, equitable access, and much more, we need to do some serious planning. We're set to launch a 5-year public process to create a plan for Coyote Valley. But well in advance of that, we've been diving deep into community engagement. We started with a report understanding our community, demographics, and barriers to access nature to help focus our engagement. A herd of communications I talked about. Plus, we had initial discussions with tribal partners. All right, so this is where the immersion comes in. Oh, where'd that come from? Oh man, and right in these deep PowerPoint waters. I don't know what it's doing, but anyway, I think that's one of the endangered species that Annie had mentioned to you before. So if you know what this is, type it in the chat, and there's a form that you need to fill out if you want to be eligible for one of those super exciting prizes. Anyway, so with that, I'm going to continue my my process here and see if we can get out of these anadromous infested waters, get back to our immersion process. There we go. All right, we start with what we call engagement communities and on the map, where potential barriers to nature access are greatest. Thanks to expert guidance from our consultants Salvador Acevedo and Scansion, we created what we feel is a road of immersive steps, starting with driving and walking tours in areas that are indicated in orange, plus a couple of areas we find near Coyote Valley. Walking and already completed, did that just in the past couple of weeks. Next, we talk with community experts to learn things about areas, like if residents have reported routes while their corner grocery store knows. We may learn things about but honestly, we mostly want to make good on our commitment to learn about that. After that, we conduct listening sessions with about 30 community organizations whose focus is primarily non-environmental. So, for instance, in the housing sector, or the health sector, or social justice. That way we start to break out of our environmental audience mold, expand our perspective, and expand our network into their networks. In these listening sessions, we'll educate folks about wildlife corridors and floodplains, certainly, but mostly we want to listen to what they have to say about their needs. We may not end up where we expect with the conversation, but then that's the idea. We're building relationships for the long haul, hopefully that long outlive the 5-year planning, and in the end, firmly believe you get to more creative outcomes and let things evolve organically. The folks that express the greatest interest we invite as co-designers, meaning they help develop design guidelines, which in turn inform the planning experts on the community's priorities before they even start. When we include their stakeholders, technical experts, and broader community members over time, we feel we'll have a good, solid picture of our full community. So it's a big commitment. It doesn't to 50 hours each for this immersive process, but as an agency, we're fully committed to centering equity, diversity, inclusion, justice, in our work. This is a singular opportunity we have for us to really do it right. In the meantime, we invite you to explore Coyote Valley on our website at openspaceauthority.org. Thanks very much, and thanks for hanging in with me on the technical thing.
Thank you so much, Mark. And thank you everybody for your flexibility on tech. There will be a day when we're meeting in person and we'll have other AV issues. But anyway, thank you very much, Mark. And one of the things that really strikes me in the presentation that you shared is humility. And that you don't have all the answers, that you're figuring it out and letting it emerge. So thank you so much for that. Our next presentation, as I said, and for those of you who are just joining. You know, we're moving fast through a lot of different short presentations with the hope that you will follow up with folks offline. And I will share their contact information and more information towards the end. So stay tuned for that. So we're going now to the Diablo range. And I'm sure you all know the mountain that's named after that range, Mount Diablo. We're going to learn now about the whole range that one mountain is a part of. So really excited to welcome Seth Adams to the stage and welcome him to talk about that range. Hi, Seth. You have 5 minutes. Ready?
How's it going? Anyway, yeah, there we go. I'm ready to go here. Hi, everybody.
Ready?
I'm Seth Adams. I'm the Land Conservation Director for Save Mount Diablo, and I'm here to tell you about our 3-year Diablo Range Revealed project. Everybody should be able to see my image, but it's flashing on my screen. Is it working for others?
It looks great. Yes.
Okay. Save Mount Diablo is 50 years old, and we've expanded our geographic area over the years. We're a hybrid land trust and an advocacy organization, and we respond to lots of development projects. We've helped expand protected lands from 7,000 to 120,000 acres around Diablo's peaks, north of Altamont Pass. It's been clear for quite a while that we needed to expand further south into the rest of the Diablo range to protect sensitive wildlife corridors. The problem is that almost no one knows much about the Diablo range. Over the past 5 years, we began considering our next expansion. We did gap analysis of protected lands, and we looked at partners and potential collaborations. We doubled our primary geographic area south to the Santa Clara County line to include the Diablo Range's northern 3 counties of 12 counties total. But we also made plans to popularize the entire range. Last year, for example, we sponsored a supplement in Bay Nature magazine, the first piece ever about the entire range. The supplement included the first published map of the Diablo Range public lands. The range stretches south from Mount Diablo and Carquinez Strait on this map, left to right, 150 miles to Kern County. It's 40 to 50 miles wide. It's the watershed divide or the spine between the San Joaquin River and the Bay and the Salinas River. It's the area between Highway 101 and Highway 5, just east of Coyote Valley that Mark was just talking about. Only 2 freeways cross it. It's one of the most intact, least explored, highest biodiversity areas remaining in California. We and our allies have preserved about 75% of what we consider important north of Altamont Pass. In the entire 150-mile range, though, only 24% has any kind of protection. Much of the rest is in huge ranches. We think the Diablo Range is California's next big conservation story. And our expansion began a process of exploring south, looking for new collaborations, and considering new projects. Last August, beginning planning for the year, I was considering how to further popularize the Diablo Range after the Bay Nature Supplement. In 2013, the 3,000-acre Morgan Fire on Mount Diablo's main peaks led to a really exciting 2.5-year series of Bay Nature articles, web posts, galleries, chronicling the regeneration after that fire. And here's Mount Diablo up here at the top, and Livermore Valley here, and so on. We began our Mary Bowerman Science and Research Program after that Morgan Fire in 2013. We began small research grants and an annual colloquium. And once you become a fire follower, you start following other fires because the regeneration is so exciting. Last July, during the pandemic, there was a 30,000-acre mineral fire west of Coalinga and south of San Benito Mountain. How exciting, 10 times larger than the Morgan Fire. I asked our GIS volunteer to map its footprint against public lands for us to explore. The next day, the SCU lightning complex of fires began from Round Valley and Morgan Territory east of Diablo up here on the map, and south from Corral Hollow and Ohlone Wilderness to Henrico and Pacheco Pass. It took 18 days to be contained and 44 days to put out. It's the 3rd largest fire in California history, covering 400,000 acres, 620 square miles, 130 times larger than the Morgan Fire. So we immediately began planning Diablo Range Revealed, Another 3-year project focusing our attention and the public's on the fire and its regeneration. There are a number of new partners, including Santa Clara Open Space Authority. Again, we're studying the area. We're doing research. We're holding bio blitzes. We're doing a tremendous amount of work building the tools for public communication. The real purpose of the project is to use the work, the project, and a dozen spin-offs to explore the Northern Diablo Range, build collaborations, and find new partners and see where we can help. We're filling in the blank spots on the map with biological information. We just held a 2-week bio blitz and recorded thousands of observations. We've helped hold up the expansion of an off-road vehicle park in Corral Hollow. We're providing legal seed money, challenging a reservoir in Del Prado Canyon. And we're working on 2 of the largest land projects in our history. The bottom line is build a big vision, start doing the work, take the next step, seek out collaborations, be ready for opportunities as they come up, and check out Diablo Range Revealed on Save Mount Diablo's website. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Seth. Big ideas, persistence, patience. I'm really grateful for you and all the work that Save Mount Diablo is doing, and the inspiration that it's that you're creating for other people. So thank you so much, Seth. All right. Our next, we're going to head back south to Santa Clara County Parks. It's not every day I get to introduce an Annie, but I get to today. I'm really excited to welcome Annie Thompson up to the stage to talk about Santa Clara County Parks and some of the work that they're doing on justice, equity, diversity, inclusion. Hi, Annie.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to try to screen share. Is it working?
It's working. Good.
Brilliant. All right. So, hi everyone. Let me start my timer so I don't mess this up. I'm Annie Thompson, and I am super excited to be here to talk to you about the innovation that is our Santa Clara County Parks Park Equity Action Team, aka PEAT. So PEAT is a staff-driven team that is facing and addressing diversity, equity, and inclusion challenges within our organization. The team has been changing the way we do business by serving as a checkpoint for department programs and practices and viewing them through a DEI lens to be sure that we don't push forward on things that have unintended negative consequences or create hurdles that ostracize any individuals or groups. PEAT is both a guide and a sounding board and has become a critical piece of our decision making. By bravely having hard conversations that uncover our hidden and unintended biases and developing innovative recommendations that result in real and practical change, PEAT has become a model for other county departments here in Santa Clara County and could similarly serve other Together Bay Area organizations, which is why we're here today. So let me tell you a little bit about how PEAT evolved. In 2016, our department began work on our strategic plan, our update to our strategic plan, and the public staff and stakeholder engagement definitely raised DEI topics in the context of our work, but it wasn't truly loud and clear like it became in recent years in our larger society. But still, when the plan was approved in May 2018, it did include some DEI language and started to document a shift in our department with no clear starting point. So there was clearly work to do. Outside our organization, of course, there are many more forward-thinking people out there, and we were lucky to have some particularly attuned folks inside, including especially our partnerships manager, Melissa Hibbard, and our training manager, Pamela Bianchi, who saw the need to capitalize on the work others were doing and began to explore programs offered by GARE, the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, and to build relationships with other county departments and outside agencies who are making fast progress in this area. So in spring of 2019, Melissa and Pamela brought the concept of participating in GARE to our management team, where it received strong support, but little specific direction. So Melissa and Pamela brought together a staff working group from across our department to just gauge interest in participating in GARE and doing other DEI related work. And that initial group, first gathered in fall 2019, formed the core of what became PEAT. And the passion and commitment shown by that first group has truly anchored the greater initiative, given it roots, and it has grown and spread in a variety of directions, all of which very much needed to be addressed in our department, but might not have ever been undertaken if just assigned to a specific position or an existing work group. So what I think was and is, and I want to share, is truly special and innovative about our PEAT team is that it is truly a cross-departmental mix of mostly frontline staff. And despite their very different job titles, personalities, ethnic, cultural backgrounds, interests, abilities, all of it, the members work together in what could be a very difficult space, addressing topics that could tear them apart, but finding ways to build respect and trust and creating an environment where they can embrace the hard work, have the hard conversations, and truly make progress. It's turned out to be like this little engine of problem solving, constantly chugging along and churning out feedback for our department and solving problems we didn't even entirely know and we definitely didn't acknowledge that we had. The common thread on everyone on the team is that they want to see Santa Clara County parks grow and improve for the benefit of our employees and our community. These are the people of Pete. It is truly a mix, and I just wanted to share, these are just a few of them, but their picture shows who they all are. And just in the 1.5 short years that it's been in existence, these are some of the things that Pete has done. They've secured DEI training at our all-staff conferences in 2019 and 2020, secured a DEI speaker in 2019 for our conference, developed a work plan, established subcommittees, created email series honoring things like Juneteenth, Lunar New Year, Black History Month, created a DEI policy for our department, secured 3 DEI web-based trainings, offered 2 introductions to structural racism trainings, hosted a racial healing lunch and learn, launched a Black History Month social media and website campaign, offered anti-bias training, implemented the GARE budget equity framework, reviewed our HR and hiring practice and integrated DEI approaches, and initiated a speaker series for staff. There's lots more work to do. I would love to connect with all of you and tell you about what we have coming up. And I hope that this is an inspirational topic for you if any of you are thinking of creating something similar to our Pete team. And that's it. I think I'm under time.
You get bonus points, Annie. Thank you so much for sharing that. The working with for folks who don't know, working within public agencies is sometimes hard to figure out how to organize, how to have some of these harder conversations. Actually, it's hard to have hard conversations everywhere, but this is an interesting model, and I know you well enough to know that you'd be happy to share it with folks. So thank you so much, Annie. All right, we are going to head up to the East Bay. I want to welcome Chris Barton from East Bay Regional Park District to talk about some of the work that they've done and are doing on the Bay Trail. So we heard earlier from Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District about 0.6 miles of Bay Trail. We're going to learn about some more Bay Trail work up in the I guess Eastern East Bay. Hi, Chris. Welcome.
Hi, Annie.
All right. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let me see if I can share my screen. Hello,
Fantastic.
Let's see. Application window. There we go. Okay.
All right.
All
Beautiful.
Right. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Spartan. I'm the East Bay Regional Park District's Restoration Project Manager, and I'm excited to be here to report back on a project that's recently been completed. The project is called the Bay Point Restoration and Public Access Project, and it's located in eastern Contra Costa County along the Bay Point shoreline. So if you're going along Highway 4, it's just it's off the San Marco exit as you're going over the hill down before you get down into Bay Point. And just a brief project history. The project is located within Kukin Bay Miwok Range. Industrial uses have occupied the shoreline, for those that are familiar with that area, since the early 1900s. So uses like lumber milling, shipbuilding, and more recently sand mining was the actual previous use before this project area became parkland. And another interesting thing in this graphic, I drew a line here to show approximately 20 miles between Martinez and Oakley, where there's very limited access to the shoreline. It's either military or industrial types of uses. There, of course, are marinas at Pittsburgh and at Antioch, and there's the Antioch Dunes. But besides that, access to the shoreline is very limited there. So I think that's what makes this project really exciting. Sorry, back on the history part of it before I jump ahead about other exciting things about the site. is so after the sand mining operation, the Park District acquired the property, and part of that funding did come from a 1988 oil spill that happened, if for those that remember the Shell oil spill. But a part of the funding for acquiring the parkland did come from that. And fast forward to 2007, the Park District cleaned up the site and was open to the public with just essential public access improvements. So although it was open to the public with restroom and some picnic areas, there still was a need to implement the rest of the land use plan that we had for the site, which included features which we've recently completed, and that's water, sewer, restrooms. So the park's been upgraded from upgraded to flush toilets, which is a huge upgrade. Toilets are #1 thing in parklands, to have clean toilets, and then also drinking water, shade. For those from East County, they know how hot it gets, so you got to have shade if you're going to have a picnic. So that was a big upgrade. And then also habitat and trail improvement. So I have a slide to kind of highlight that aspect of the project. And then also water access. There's a kayak launch that's been installed. So before getting into the details of the project, I'd like to just touch on a few things that make this project exciting, and also to look at why outdoor recreation and shoreline access is sorely needed in this area. So looking at the demographics, there's about 4,000 residents within a half mile of the park. So these residents can walk to the shoreline, and this is an economically disadvantaged community with limited shoreline access. And there was a report that Contra Costa County put out in 2013 that looked at public health challenges in the East Bay, specifically looking at obesity and then the link to recreation. And one of the key findings was that the community of Bay Point is one of the most park and open space deficient areas within East County. So there's a really desperate need to get more outdoor recreational opportunities for the residents out there. The project also implements the Park District's master plan and land use plan for the Bay Point Park, implements the San Francisco Bay Water Trail plan. So there's now a water trail stop at Bay Point. And it also implements the Great California Delta Trail plan, bringing a kind of a destination stop along the Great California Delta Trail. And for those that aren't familiar with the Great California Delta Trail, it circles around Contra Costa, North Contra Costa, and into Solano County to have a loop around the Delta. And the project also implements the Baylands Ecosystem Habitat Goals Science Update. So it addresses sea level rise and also looks at how to improve habitat for listed species and to contribute towards the recovery of those species. Let's see, moving forward, this is an air photo of the existing, or not existing, we're done with the project now, but before we built the project, here you can see this light colored, it's a loop trail that was it was really a haul route that was used for sand mining that had been converted to a public access trail, but it didn't meet accessibility standards, and also it flooded too. There are a lot of low-lying areas, so it wasn't an all-season trail. Now the site, the way they got the sand slurry in there to drain the water out of the sand was there was a pipe that ran along this levee here, you can see, and then there are some settling ponds that were created on site. So as the sand dries out, it was put into trucks and brought to market.
Chris, you have about 10 seconds to go. 10, 15, can you wrap up in that time?
Yes, too much background. Here's the project. If you can get out there, it's great. To the right, this is the completed project that shows the tidal marsh that's been restored. It's been designed for sea level rise. There's also a new kayak launch that spurs off of the new Great California Delta Trail. There's interpretive overlooks, a new bridge, and it costs about $5.7 million. And we're really happy to have this thing open after all the closures due to fire, COVID, and everything else. And I'd like to thank all of our project funders as well. Thanks, Annie. And
Thank you,
any questions, email me. Happy to provide more detail.
Thank you so much, Chris. There's so much. You know, what you've been talking about is multi-benefits on top of multi-benefits on top of really just a really complex, really important project. So thank you so much for sharing. And I hope that folks will follow up with you afterwards to get more information.
Great,
So thank you. Yeah, thank you. All right, we have one more. This hour, I don't know about you all, but has been flying by. There's so much good work happening that is just really exciting, and there's so much to learn and connect about. So we have one more. I want to welcome Sabella Kraus, founder and executive director of SAGE, or Sustainable Agriculture Education. And she's going to talk. Hi, Sabella. She's going to talk about a project called 100 Jobs. And I'm going to be the screen person.
Thank you so much, Annie. Hey, welcome everybody. I'm so excited to talk about this project, 100 Jobs to Feed People and Sustain the Planet. The purpose is to help students, job seekers, and career changers explore and find future-oriented jobs in agriculture, food, water, and the environment. This is a collaboration between SAGE and California Community Colleges. For SAGE, we think one of the best metrics for sustainability is the number of people who have green jobs, especially in open space, sustainable agriculture, and so on. And for community colleges, they want to know what are the trends in green job sectors so they can make sure they've got the relevant training and education all queued up. In this slide, what you're looking at is part of the homepage, and this little grid of folks comes under a heading called Looking for a Job that Fits Your Passions and Your Values. So the site features these job stories of people who, in short videos, talk about how excited they are about their work, about the organizations they work for, and about how they're making a difference. The job stories sort of highlight great jobs, not so much the employer per se, though many of the job ambassadors do mention that they're really inspired by the mission of their employers. So we have many job stories completed and many more in the pipeline. I mean, it's a little bit hard to see here, but we have folks who work for the San Mateo County RCD, and we have folks who work at the Driscolls as their sustainability director, farm managers, young people who are just starting out in IT at organic distributors, an incredible range. Folks working with farmers like Kitchen Table Advisors, and folks in running farmers markets like Devin at Quesa. So next slide. Well, I'll show you how we create these job stories. So the job ambassadors produce 3 short videos based on our prompts. What do you love about your job? What do you do every day? And what was your path? And what are your future aspirations? We then put the videos and some photos on a 8-card template, which also includes data about the salaries and the kinds of training needed for this particular kind of job type. And for example, Lexi Fuji is a development and communications coordinator at the Marin Ag Land Trust. And in this video, she explains her range of work activities. Can you click the video, please, Annie?
Clicking, but it's not playing, unfortunately.
All right, well, I'm going to invite you all to go to 100plusjobs.org. I'll write it in the chat, and you'll be able to see young people who are talking with such excitement about the work that they're doing. They're telling the stories about how they got there, and they're telling the stories about what they want to do next. So I think you're going to find these incredibly engaging. So next slide, please. The third, there we go. So the world needs young people to join the sustainability movement. I think everyone agrees with that. And to help that happen, we'd love you to engage with our effort. So please recommend early career people who would make great job ambassadors. Recommend them from your own organization. We found employers are really jazzed to see their employees featured, and have helped actually get these job stories made. And please join our industry advisory group to help shape the future of the project. We're now really honing in on jobs in the environment and sustainable ag fields, because our new project here is particularly in partnership with community college environmental science programs across the 28 colleges in the Bay Area. Please subscribe for updates. We'll have a big public launch on June 1st, and then you can see all of these jobs roll in. We'll notify you each time a new one comes on. And then please just reach out to me if you'd like to chat about the project, how it might serve the needs of your own organization. We'd really love to hear from you. So 100plusjobs.org, check it out. Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Annie.
Thank you so much, Sabella, for sharing that project. I know that there's a lot of hard work that's been going into it, so thank you. And I want to say thank you to all of our speakers. 8 amazing people, 8 amazing projects and organizations doing work all around the region to take care of this planet, to take care of the region, take care of communities and people, and I'm just really grateful to all of you. So it's 12:30. I've put a link in the chat to a Google Doc that has information about the 8 projects and the speakers' names and emails. You also can follow up with the speakers here within Hopin. And actually, I invite you to hop over to sessions over on the left-hand side. There will be rooms for each of the speakers to go, and there will be opportunities to connect there as well. So please lean into all the different ways that we can connect with one another, can learn from one another, share ideas, and let's all work together to transform how we live together in this place. So that concludes today's member showcase. Thank you for participating and for being a part of this.